So without further ado, we will welcome to the RMB stage Mr. George Papanikolas. Hi,
Thank you,
George.
guys. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you guys?
Good. How are
Good,
you?
George. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Just dealing with the quarantine, but we're here.
Yes. And where are you right now?
I'm at home in LA in Hollywood Hills.
Okay, beautiful. All
So
right.
yeah, looks like Mykonos, but I wish we were there.
Yeah, it's very, very white. I love it.
Yeah, don't touch anything. Not necessarily the best place to do color, but with the bleach, it's okay.
Excellent. George, we're so excited to have you on here today. And, you and I are certainly, we've seen each other throughout the past. I think the first time we came in contact was way back when through Stephen Henley. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, right. And that was a long time ago, but I've always been a big fan of your work.
thank you.
And normally stalk you on Instagram so I can see it. Yesterday, I saw a little bit more than your work as you were soaking up the vitamin C. But
What can I do?
Yes.
You got to throw that in there too.
yeah, exactly. You got
Yeah.
to throw a little bit of that in there as well. So we're excited, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to. It's like Alfredo was saying. My business model has always been, high volume. I average 20 to 30 appointments a day, on a regular day. So for me, everything I do in the salon is super strategic, but it also has to look really beautiful because you want those clients to come back and they want to have more. So I think like the way I kind of approach hair is really just to make it look effortless, sun kissed. You spent the summer at the beach, but with a little bit more pop and like a little bit of an edge to it. That's always been my vibe. And it's one of those things that like the girls like it. And not only in LA, New York, I'm getting flown to the Middle East, Europe. These girls see this look and it pops. And I think what's made me able to do these international trips is, I could also do 20 to 30 appointments. So it offsets the costs of the flights, everything else that goes into those trips where, if you could only do 2 or 3 people a day, a lot of times people are like, how can I start flying to Dubai? How can I start flying to London? But it's like, if you're only doing 2 or 3 appointments in a day, you're not going to break even. The cost of
Yeah.
everything gets too high. So this techniques that I do are really easy way to crank out a lot of clients, but it's also going to give you a really fun result. So I already pre-did half this mannequin head right here, showing this
Yeah.
technique. Now, I'll give you guys a little bit closer look here. So you see what she was like before, and this is what it was like after. Now,
Oh,
would you
beautiful.
believe that I did this in 15 minutes? And I used 7 foils on the side.
Wow.
So
Okay.
imagine the entire thing now is going to take you about, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes max. I could probably do it in 15, the whole thing. And it's going to process for about an hour and a half, hour and a half. But you're getting this like major transformation with 14 foils. So for me, again, this is like minimal effort, but you're getting maximum benefit. So I'm
Excellent.
going to go step by step to show you guys exactly on the other half. Is that what you guys want to see?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because Franz
Okay.
on our feed is freaking out.
He's
They're
like,
like,
what?
what? So yes, we want to see,
Okay.
as do our viewers, how the heck you're gonna do that in 14 foils.
All right, we're gonna see. Okay, well, starting first, you got to think about like strategic placement. That's really where we're gonna focus on with the hair. So before the client ever comes into my chair, I always recommend first get your hair cut. Because a lot of the best result here is on the ends. So if I do your work and then you get your haircut after, you're gonna lose the best part. So it's always better to get it cut first. That way I can tailor everything to the cut. The other thing you're gonna see is there's a lot of negative space. So if you lift the hair on the section, you can see there's a lot of dark under here. Now
Mhm.
that's really important. Because this hair lays over it, that's really what pops. And these are the areas that you want to focus. The pop is going to be the face frame, the natural part, and the ends. All that internal stuff, you don't need to really focus on that because the top layer of hair is going to lay over it, and that's where you're going to get the contrast, the dimension. That's where the client sees in the mirror. That's where the camera photographs it. So it's a technique that works for my celebrities, but it also works for like any girl that just wants to look beautiful when she looks in the mirror. So these are
Mhm.
these are very strategic ways to think. you know, a lot of hairdressers, they really start at the nape of the neck and they spend so much time in areas that the client doesn't even see. And, you know, when we get
Yes.
back into the salon, it's going to be crazy. So that's not an area I would focus. And that's why I kind of like nicknamed this technique the Quaranteeze, because it's, you know, it's easy. It's going to get them out. It's going to get them what they want. Plus, you're probably going to be starting with like relatively healthy hair. So, so first things first, product wise, I'm going to use Lightmaster. This is my go-to lightener. And then we're going to use 2 different developers. For the face frame, we're going to go with 20 volume because we're going to do a couple of slices around the face, and these are going to lift faster. 2 reasons: the hair's more fine, so it tends to lighten faster. Plus, you have the heat from your face where the foils are going to be laying. That also activates it faster. So just to have it all balanced and not get too white around the face, we'll do the 20 vol. And then for the rest of the foils, we're going to do 40 volume. And I know a lot of people are scared of 40 volume foils, but again, we're doing 14 foils total. So with 14 foils, you'll be able to get these on really fast. And even with this on, it can sit on, I start checking it about 20 minutes, but a lot of times it goes 30 to 50 minutes before we get to this light blonde effect. And I also don't use heat when I'm doing this, again, because I want to keep the hair really healthy. So I'd rather just let the client sit, let it do its thing. It'll get there. You know, and if it doesn't get there, then I'd rather have her come back again in like 2 months. We'll do another round. If you throw this under heat and you overprocess the hair, you know, there's no more going over it again because you busted that cuticle open. Or if you just let it do its thing over time, you're going to be a lot better. So now when I'm doing this typically, I divide the hair into 3 sections. So you're going to go from ear to ear first. Okay, and you want to clip these away. Okay, and then you're going to start taking horizontal sections. Now, the reason we do horizontal sections is because I want you to just visualize. If you took a vertical slice of the hair, it's going to disappear.
Yeah.
So that's going to give you a lot of work, not a lot of impact. Where if you go a slice this way, like straight across, now you're going to get a giant chunk. So that horizontal placement, that's what we're going to use all around the head, because every single piece we do, we want to get the maximum impact from each piece. So that's why we're going to go horizontal with everything. So now, starting with our first section, we're going to start the teasing lights. Now, a lot of people do these and they take tiny, tiny little sections. It's great. You'll get there, but you're going to get exactly the same place now taking huge sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm starting essentially, I'd say like just above, I would say just below the ear right here. The top of the ear is where we're going to take our first section. And I know this section looks huge. Take this in half. Comb this out, pull it up 90 degrees. I use these Cricut combs. I have 2 of them. I have a fine tooth one and I have the wide tooth one. The fine tooth is more for just depending on the texture and see which one feels better, but typically for the most part, I use the wider tooth comb, but then on the face frame and the money pieces, we're gonna go with the tighter one. So let me put some gloves on. And I've pre-mixed, I've got the 2 lighteners with a double bowl, so that way you got the 20 and the 40.
So I love that, George, just while you're putting your gloves on, because, you know, it just shows I've been doing hair for a million years. And you get into this habit, right? So you have a habit of the tools that you're used to, you get it, and you just reorder the same, right? Unless you're out there actively looking for new tools, you end up just getting the same thing over again. I use Cricut combs as well. Never knew they had a wide tooth one.
Yeah.
Still right
Yeah, well, I think for me, that's also the very systematic way of working for me in the salon, because people always ask, like, how do you do 20 to 30 appointments? And the way I can do it is because we have a system. The trays are set up exactly the same way every single time. I have 3 assistants. You know, we measure the bleach. It's 1 scoop to 1 ounce of lightener every single time. You know, there's a lot of colorists that I've watched, and they'll like yell at their assistant. They'll be like, "Does this look like yogurt? Does this look like yogurt?" And it's like, what if this is yogurt? Could be a whole other yogurt where if it's always pre-measured, it always comes out the same. And so, you know, I don't ever have to like send them back, and it doesn't ever slow down the process. So, so we do 1-to-1 ratio. And then, okay, so starting here, so we're gonna go 90-degree angle, and then you're gonna back comb the hair away, all of it in one giant slice. Now, essentially what that's doing is pushing away the newer growth, and it's leaving back the older growth. So this is what's gonna be the first section. And you see we left a pretty fine slice here.
Yeah.
You wanna make sure the slice is fine. You should be able to see through it. If there's too much hair in the foil, it's not gonna lift. I'd rather you do more foils, but even with this, because you're pushing all the newer hair away, the older hair is going to give you a lot of pop. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
And then we're going to take the foil. I usually work with longer foils. That way, again, just makes your job easier. And now, just an example of if I did the lightener straight across here, that's going to give a really hard line. And then a lot of people do that and they go back and do a lot of toning to correct it all. So the way to save you that step is instead of going in and doing a straight line, I'm going to do V shapes. Now the V shapes are really important because the V shapes are what are going to create the seamless transition and blend. So you're going to start like a little bit lower and then feather that up.
I think that I've heard that noise. I'm closing my eyes, right? It's like that ASMR or whatever. I've heard that noise of foiling so many years of my life. I could probably fall asleep to it.
Right. So like soothing.
All right. So just a few little tips when I'm doing this. See those top corners? You want to make those into sharp, tight corners. If you've got a heavy application at the top, it's going to create like a hard line when you go through. But can you see the V's?
Yes.
So that's, you can kind of see on this other side what happened. It creates that seamless blend.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to have happening with these. So, and in order, like if you folded this in half, you're going to probably spot that V. So instead of that happening, use the second foil and just go right over it. Okay, so that's foil one. So you would do a second one on that side. Then we're going to leave this entire middle section out. And we're just going to take these top corners. So all this hair here is still dark. You can see on this side over here that I did, it's all dark. So we're skipping a couple of inches here of hair. And I know a lot of people that's out of a lot of colorist comfort zone because they feel like they should put streaks everywhere, but it's not necessary. This is that internal layer that's going to give you that shadow, that negative space, that contrast. The other thing is, one of the reasons I think the clients keep coming back to me is because their hair stays really healthy. And one of the reasons it stays really healthy is because I'm not highlighting every single strand. So when you're really strategic with lightening and the majority of the hair is still virgin and natural, her hair is going to be longer, it's going to be thicker, it's going to feel healthier. Her friends are going to see how long and thick and healthy her hair is.
Yeah.
That's how you get repeat business. You know, if it's all like over processed and over highlighted, which, you know, these ends, trust me, they get like dry too. But if the less of that you do, the more likely that client's hair is going to be healthy and she's going to come back.
Nice. Okay. George, we have a couple questions. So you're just to
Yep.
confirm, you're using the 40 volume in the back, correct?
Yes, all the teasing lights are going to be 40 volume, and the face frame is the only one we're doing 20 volume.
Okay,
so now again, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and then Liza would like to know, is this the same technique you used on BTC, the no toner balayage?
It's similar, except that we are going to do a face frame of foils, and I didn't do the freehand technique on top. So the face frame is going to be different, and it's going to give you a brighter, stronger money piece with this technique.
Okay.
Okay, so now again, 90 degrees up, and you're going to push this all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're left with a fine slice. And again, we're doing these V shapes, and it's all horizontal. You know, again, here it is. It's all falling in this direction. So that's all very important things that you got to do.
Liza loves your techniques.
Thank you.
I do too.
Thanks, guys.
Right, I concur.
Yeah, we concur. We're
Yeah, and
fans.
the great thing about these techniques, they really work for, it doesn't just have to be like the bronze and the brunettes. I do this similarly on my blondes. I would just do a lot more highlights on them, in the crown first if it was a blonde client. Or, but this is perfect for a redhead because, again, redheads, the majority of it, you want it to be the foundational color. And you just want to have these few pops. So we did that piece here, same V shape there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So next is where we're going to do the face frame. So typically what I'm going to do is, I went a little stronger on the mannequin head because the hair is a little bit thicker, but you can see like when she pulls her hair back, we've got the brightness. So what I did was I went back and did a little bit of a shadow root after just to soften that root. But that's what you want to get. You want to get like a very, very fine slice, maybe even two, right in the face. And you want to get all those little baby hairs. So that's where, and the good thing about doing this, compared to the BTC technique, this is all one shot. You can do this all at once rather than a two-step. So this is going to get the client in and out a lot faster than the two-step freehand and poise. So you're going to take this and just get like a very, very baby fine slice on the hairline. Pull that out. And I'm not even weaving this. We're keeping everything horizontal because we want to keep it maximum. But you want to take this and make it as fine as possible. This is probably even just go too thick, but on a real head, just keep it really, really baby fine. And then you're going to take your foil. And just face frame that as well. And with this one is we're going to go with the 20 volume. And again, the reason we're doing the 20 vol is because the heat from your face is going to help it lift faster. And these hairs tend to be a lot more fine and delicate. So you want to be really careful with those because if these break, the client's not coming back.
No, right, exactly. So a couple more questions. First, a comment from Jorge from Puerto Rico. He says this is super fast and he loves it. How thick should that section that you just did in the front be? Tiny, Jorge, tiny.
Yeah, very, very tiny. Like see through, like the babyest, like almost barely any hair in it because you want to keep that all really soft. I don't like super strong, crazy face frames like that. Like even I did, my before was a little bit heavier, but it's a mannequin head. But for me, like I like to keep that very, very sheer, and I'd almost rather do two very sheer baby ones, and then that way they're really delicate and soft. But also when it's done, I almost always go back and I do like a root shadow. I'll use color sync, and I usually go about one shade lighter than their base color, and that just like drops it down. And I use an N, so a neutral. Like so, if this is like let's say a 6N, I would go in with a 7N afterwards, and just like brush it in, feather it down a little. That's just gonna soften all the highlights, so that when the client leaves, she doesn't see like a hard line.
Yeah,
it's the contrast from the root color to the highlight that can look really harsh at the root.
yeah.
Okay.
And then Franz is asking, well, first Franz says, my mouth is still open, so I think that's a good thing. Is the V shape the same throughout the back, or is anything narrower? It looks the same, but
it's the same. The section was a little bit smaller because it's on the top of the head. It's a smaller triangular section, but it's essentially the same, and we're going to do the same on the sides and front. So
Great.
I'll go through those each step so you can see each one. So we got the face frame now here. So we just have like the two face frames. And again, like just depending on how light you want to go, you can go with two foils each on the face frame. But it just depends on how many baby hairs they have. If they have a lot of baby hairs, then you'll want to do like 2 or 3. If they don't have a lot of baby hairs, you can get away with 1. So you gotta have to tailor that part, depending on the client.
George, when you do a retouch, when they come back for something like this, do you try to keep the same pattern and just do the V on the regrowth, or do you sometimes add new highlights in? Does it just depend? What's your strategy for that?
So typically, if a client like this comes in, I usually do a freehand balayage first in the crown, and then I'll do these tips after. So you save these tips more for like a 2 to 3 times a year thing, because that hair, especially if you max it out to a really light blonde, it can get over processed really quickly. So typically about every second haircut is what you need to redo them. Your clients are gonna want these every single time. You have to kind of like chop them off the ledge and be like, no, girl, you're gonna get a free haircut out of this. But I also will adjust, if they just want a little jolt and a little pop, I'll drop it down to like a 10 or 20 on the ends. It'll give the clients what they want, because a lot of times, especially if they're doing a single process in between, that color runs down no matter what. It kind of dulls down the highlights a little bit. So that's a good way to just kind of bump it back up without having to really max out the lightening.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, so we got our 2 face framers. All right, and now we're going back to the side of the head. So now we've got this entire section that's above the ear, and it's about just about her temple. That's our next section. Like I said, these are really large sections that we're working with here. And this, again, always at a 90-degree angle, pull it all the way out. And then you're gonna just straight back on it. Usually 2 swipes is enough. And you just want to get it in there really tight. It needs to be the same density throughout. If there's like a thick section and a thin section, you're not doing it right. Take it out, do it over again. So it needs to have the same thickness and density throughout the hair. Also, if your back combing is down to here, you're teasing forward updo. We're not doing updos here. You know, we're doing the teasy light. So it's really just essentially just getting that hair out of the way. That's what you want to do. If you're doing a lot of little teases, you know, then you're sculpting a beehive for this client.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. And you're also not going to get that graduation of color, which is what we're trying to do here with the V's. So we got that section there, and we're going to do another V right here. You guys are almost done. Can you believe it? I've got 2 more foils to go, and I'm finished.
Amazing.
So, and guess how much we charge for the salon for this?
How much?
It's a lot. It's just this technique would be $450 in Beverly Hills, and it'd be $550 in New York. And we spent about 15 minutes getting it on. And you know, it's like, and again, it seems like wild to people when they see me work, because they're like, whoa, like you barely spent any time with that client. But it's like you're giving them a really cool result. And it's probably different than the majority of hairdressers are doing. So it has to be something special. Like the clients, they definitely leave happy because they keep coming back. So we got the V shape here.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
All right. Now the next piece is going to be the face framer money piece. Again, these are the ones that the clients really notice. These are the ones you have to get perfect. So what we're going to do with this one is, let's just look back at what we did before. You see how it's, you know, you've got that strong pop right there. Okay?
Yeah.
So what we're doing with this, we're going to take a small triangular section. So this is your section here. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
I'll get a little closer. It's a small triangular section. And with this one, I tend to go with the finer tooth comb, because you can get in there really tight with this. Always 90 degrees. Push it down real tight. And you see, again, we talked about how we're doing horizontal. It's horizontal because it falls down to her face like this. So that's the placement that you want it to fall. So everything needs to be, again, super strategic, because we're not doing very many and they're going to be very strong. So if you place it weird, it's going to look weird. Okay, and then you're going to do with this a little mini V. Yeah, the question that I think like people also ask a lot when I do these techniques is like, how do I get that out? You know, I think when they see all the back combing, I think the part that everyone freaks out about is the getting out. So I think if you guys want, I can also show how I do that. I think that's one of those things that I think people avoid these techniques because maybe they don't have 3 assistants to do the shampoos, which definitely helps. But you know,
Yes.
that's always my answer. How do you get them out? Is get a good assistant. But,
I would love to see that. I'm definitely one of those people because I do stuff on set so much, and like I'll do the traditional V balayage rather than the Quaranteeze or whatever because of the detangling. So I would love to see your tricks for that.
Okay, so we see the little mini V shape here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then now our last section is going to be on her natural part. So again, we're working horizontally. This is where her hair falls. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Just take a whole slice around here. It's about, I'd say like about 1.5 inches thick. We're leaving all this as our shadow. All this hair here is our shadow, okay? So you leave this dark. You want that contrast. And pull it 90 degrees up.
You know, George, as I'm watching you work, I'm thinking about you talking about price, and I would imagine what you're doing because you're keeping the dimension, because of how beautiful and how it's popping. I'm guessing that they don't have to come back as often as they would if you did more. Like the line of demarcation, I would think that the grow out would be much softer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The grow out grows out really seamlessly. And I always tell people, I think people ask me like, how are you so busy and so successful? And I tell the people a lot of times, like, I see it with a lot of other people who do hair, you know, around me. And I think so many times people rely so much on toning to correct. So they'll do a full highlight, they'll go in and put a shadow root, and they'll color melt, and they do all these things. And you know, they leave the salon and they look gorgeous. And they take that Instagram picture and they look gorgeous.
Yeah.
But, you know, we all know what happens with the toners. You know, within like 2 weeks, a lot of it washes out. And then you're left with hard lines, noodles, streaks, you know, and then what happens is that like the client will be happy when she left. She paid her bill. But, you know, 2 weeks later, a month later, her friends aren't asking her, who did your hair? Oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, who's doing your hair? Like, and with these techniques, they're so seamless, and I lift them right to where I want them. I typically only use toners if I have to, or if I'm trying to go for an effect. But ideally, especially when you're dealing with like virgin hair, it usually lifts right to where you want it, especially with these teasing techniques. Because I think when the hair gets pushed back down, it almost has like a toning effect on its own when you do that. So you don't have to rely as much on toners. Plus, I don't max the hair out to white and then go back and tone it. I like keeping a little bit of a golden honey undertone because 2 reasons. Number one, you don't have to rely on toner. Number two, her hair's healthy, so you can do this again. And it's not going to shift colors. It's going to be essentially where you want it. But that's where it becomes like a mastering of the ideal tone. And that's what separates, I think, for me, like who are like the best colorists because they know how to take it off right when it's ready versus going to white and then going in with the toner.
Right.
So,
George, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, if we've got some questions on your foils. Can you just take a look here? Is this what the back looks like? There's
yes, exactly how it is.
4 foils, everyone, with no foils in between. And then the side. Hold on. How do I get, am I close?
Now move a little. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So
that's exactly right.
Okay.
Actually, no, there's one more on the side. There's one foil.
Yeah,
I took a triangle.
Okay.
There's like a little triangle on the side. I'd say like this section right here, from ear to here to your temple, there's one more foil.
Okay.
There's a foil, the face frame, and then the top side. So then there's a middle section that's no foils, and that's the one with no foils here.
Okay.
You can see it here.
So, you're welcome, Franz. they're not meeting anywhere. They're just sort of strategically placed so that when the hair is in natural fall, it has the lightness in the right places.
Yeah, it looks like it's just crazy and teased, but they're very, very strategic.
Yep.
You can see on the side, there's the one on the side with the 2 face frames, and these are the 2 on the top. In the back, we just did the 4, so it's really just like 1 and 2. There's not a lot. You don't need a lot. And again, the timing, because we're not using heat, it's going to take its time. So that's again, when people are saying like, how do you eye it? It's knowing when to take it off. When you're not using heat, you can start checking it at 20 minutes, and then about every 10 minutes after that, it moves at its own pace, so you don't have to worry about it getting to white immediately. But the finer the hair, the more careful you guys need to be.
Yeah.
So you guys want to go into getting it out now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go rinse real quick. So the mistake that I think most people do is they wet everything down, including the matting. So what I do is we're going to take all the foils off. We only rinse off the lightener off the ends. Keep the matting dry. I know it sounds weird, but it makes your job so much easier because the wetting opens up the cuticle. It tangles the hair. When it's dry, it's already closed and tight. So once you do that, then you just glob a lot of conditioner, and it comes out really easy. So I'm going to just show you guys, because I've done these classes with these mannequin heads, and people are struggling for an hour trying to get these out, because a lot of times it's just their teasing's too tight, or they or really they're just they're getting everything so wet.
Right.
So I'm just going to show you guys how easy, just the easier way to do it. There's also a special brushes you need to use. And I think that's what a lot of people do, is the wrong brush.
I want to live in your kitchen. I want to cook in your kitchen, George.
Come, I love it. Thank you.
You're making me miss Mykonos, George. Even though you're
right. Pretend we're at Scorpios here.
I've never been.
Oh my God, it's so fun. Okay, so we got this. So we rinsed off the lightener off the ends.
Yep.
The matting is still dry. So what you're gonna do is just take a really good slick conditioner. The more hydrating, the better. And just start placing these globs of conditioner on the balls of the hair. And again, it's it has to be very careful. It's not gonna just don't just start attacking this thing. You have to think of each section is its own little ball.
Yeah.
So you go in, and this is a brush that I think for me, I find is the best kind of brush to use. It's a wig brush, and these metal bristles really get into the same way you would get the matting out of your dog's hair. That's what this brush does for wigs, your clients. And this brand in particular, it's the Sheila Stotts removal brush. It's made for wigs and extensions, and it's really great at getting these out. But you can see when it's dry, it comes out really easy. Here's the little section. You got to factor in. It's gonna take you. You need 5 to 10 extra minutes of shampooing, but it's gonna come out, and you can see typically you're not losing any hair in the process. That sounds worse than it actually is, but the hair could definitely handle this. And I think this is the part that I think people freak out about. But if you go be patient and go section by section, you saw how quickly that one section was. It's the same with this one. You start going in, start pulling it apart, and you're gonna pull it apart like this, but just start working with it, and section by section. And it's really gonna soften the whole thing for you guys.
Excellent. Excellent. I think there was some concern about, wanting to make sure that the client felt comfortable at the back. And I think that this is exactly, exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, you can show them the brush. I always show them listen, you're not losing any hair. You're good. It's still here. Because I think it sounds worse when they hear the pulling and the tugging.
Yeah.
But it's really just about being just patient, going in section by section, and getting it all out. But these are the end result. It's hard to get this from freehand. When I started doing hair, I used to be a balayage freehand only guy. I used to be so anti-foils.
Yeah.
And what I found that this technique, it gives me the same effect as the freehand does. The placement's exactly the same of where I would hand paint them in, but it's almost like putting it on steroids.
Yeah.
Because when you isolate it in the foil, it'll give you those 8 levels of lift in one shot, where it's hard to get that from freehand only. Anyone who's done freehand work, you're probably going to get probably 4 levels of lift, 6 if you're lucky. And so it requires multiple
Yep.
appointments. And as much as our clients, they're patient, they also want what they want. They show you a picture, they want to leave with it the way it is. So that's why I think for me, like those cheesy lights, they really give you, you know, that pop that's really trending right now and that girls really like. And again, like I typically like to incorporate it with like freehand work on top. And I think when you combine the two techniques together, it creates a really soft, seamless blend.
Yeah, what I love, well, first, I just want to thank you because when we first went into lockdown, if you will, quarantine, I was saying that I'd like to get better. You know, whenever I balayage, I always have that orange
Yes.
up at the top. And so I use foils, right? I do the same placement, these using foils, but sometimes I feel like it's not exactly it's looked down upon, right? And now I just feel validated, George. You've made me feel validated.
I love it.
So I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm going to keep using my damn foils.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, you got it. Like the thing is, like with these trends, everything changes so fast, so you have to be
Yeah.
adaptable. And
Yeah.
if you stuck to the freehand, you started falling behind, and you weren't giving those
Yeah.
looks. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
everyone's still shocked
okay.
about the 15 foils. George, everyone loves,
Yeah,
loves, loves.
here's again to see if you guys want to see what it looked like before. You know,
It's
it's not a
amazing.
lot, and you're gonna get maximum impact. So,
Yeah,
you
it's
know, because again, even
unbelievable.
for us, you know, I'm worried about, you know, the salons reopening, but I think what we've decided in our salon, because, you know, for me, like I don't only just double book, like I like quadruple book. You know, there's 4 appointments an hour usually on my schedule. So I think what we're planning on doing in our salon is, for me and a couple of the other really busy colorists, they're gonna give us actually like 75% of the salon for 3 days. And that way we can space all of our clients out. And we'll do shifts as well, like starting at 7 a.m. and maybe be done by 4. And
Yeah.
that way I can still accommodate everybody like I normally do versus, you know, I don't want to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to accommodate
Yeah, I
normal
don't, and
people.
I don't
There's,
think that that's exactly healthy either. You know what I mean?
no,
So
I don't think it's physically possible.
yeah, I don't think it's physically, mentally, or spiritually the best thing to do.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So thank you, George. I know you've got a little bit of time left, you know, in both places that you work, New York and California, to sort of figure out what your now normal is going to be moving forward. But know that we're here with you. Everybody continue to follow George because he gives you a lot of great information. I know he posted the pre-look of that today on his Instagram. We've got Franz saying thank you for sharing your tips with about 500 red hearts. So lots of love, lots of love going over to you, George, from not only our viewers, but from us. And certainly when the lockdown is lifted, then we can have a party right there in your kitchen, I think.
Right.
Yes, for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, George. Everybody give it up for
Thank
George.
you
Thank
so
you so
much,
much. Thanks for
George.
everything.
Thank you. You were amazing.
Thank you.